Hi, my today's guest is a corporate woman turned educator, Pallavi Pujari Mohindra. Hi Pallavi, it's so good to have you here.
Hi Prerna, and it's such a pleasure to be here, finally.
After an enriching finance career with leadership roles in EY and KPMG, she turned an educator. The birth of her twins led her to early childhood development. After doing certification courses, she combined the scientific research of brain development in the early years and combined it with the educational practices and founded the Tinker Lab and the Nurturant. Tinker Lab is an early childhood learning center that is moving beyond the traditional classrooms. They follow an innovative education model and inclusive approach, also train parents to follow the same approach at home and undertake teacher training as well. Pallavi, we want to know, how did you make this switch from a thriving corporate career to nurturing young minds?
Okay, so it was very organic actually because I'm the eldest in my household. My siblings and me, we have like huge age gaps. My youngest sibling is at least 20, 21 years younger than I am.
Yeah.
So babysitting per se came very naturally to me from a very young age.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my corporate career was a very thought through career choice that I had made in life. And I wanted to be there, I wanted to do that. But there came a point, I think, in my life where I started thinking whether this is who I am, and is this what I want to leave behind, or be remembered for when I'm gone. And I think that question did not leave me for a very long time. This is even before I had my own kids. So I kept thinking about this, that what is it that I really, really want to do. And working with children is the only other thing that comes very, very naturally to me. So this thought process had been going on for a long time, baking in my head, simmering there. And then of course to 2016 I had my own children. And that whole studying that I did of human development in the early years and the brain development especially that happens, but not just restricted to that, but every aspect of raising a child. When I kind of studied that in depth, it really blew my mind. And I was just like, oh my God, this information has to be available, not just to educators, but even us parents. Depends on how much you would want to deep dive into it, but this information should be available. So why not, do something that I really love doing, which is spending time with children, but also helping or working with parents, working with educators. So I think it came about very, very organically for me. And that was not like, okay, of course it was very difficult to let go of a corporate career and all of that. It was not an easy decision by any means, because after spending 2 decades, you've done a lot of investment into it, into yourself. That was a big decision for me at that point in time. Having done the switch, I would say it was a very informed decision, very thought through decision, and not forced. It happened very organically.
So it's been 20 years as a corporate woman and 5 years as an early childhood learning educator.
Formally 5 years as an educator, but like I said, the process had long started before that 5 years.
So where does your heart lie between both the roles?
Of course, in what I do right now, I jokingly tell people that I'm completely unemployable now, not because of anything, but simply because of the experience of being an entrepreneur, of being a founder, the things that you learn along the way. If this is where your heart lies, you cannot ever go back and work in the corporate field anymore. That's what I think. But of course, my heart lies here.
I know. So your passion clearly shows when you talk about this topic. And I have had a very similar journey where I was in the corporate as well, and then I followed my passion. So I can totally relate to it. So career paths are now changing rapidly. What advice would you give to someone who's standing at the crossroads of stability and passion?
I don't think in the world that we're living in right now, and the world that the way it's shaping up, there is anything called stability anymore. I think passion, yes, passion is important because that's what drives us to show up every day. But passion with purpose is what I would say, right? Because there are a lot of people I meet who say that I'm really passionate about this, but are not able to really channel their passion
Yeah.
with purpose.
Yeah.
And the moment you're unable to do that,
Yeah.
you're just running around like a headless chicken.
Yeah.
You have a lot of passion,
Absolutely.
but you really haven't been able to put it into a framework to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do with that passion.
Yeah.
So yes, passion, definitely yes,
Yeah.
but to be able to think and to be able to put a framework and say, well, this is how I'm going to make my passion, put some purpose into my
Yeah.
passion.
Right.
That gives us the ability, therefore, to pivot if required.
Yeah.
Which is very important
Yeah.
in the world that's
Right.
coming about.
Yeah.
Helps you pivot, helps you unlearn and relearn a lot of things.
Yeah.
Acquire. It's like survival,
Yeah.
right? So people who adapt
Yeah.
will survive.
Yeah.
So if you're just stuck to saying, oh, this is how it is and this is who I am and this
Yeah.
is what I did all
Yeah.
my life, but well, if things are changing too bad, I don't think such people are going to
Yeah.
survive at all.
Right.
So you have to constantly find ways to keep the fire in your belly
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
but at the same time be able to say, this is, I will be able to pivot if required. I will
Yeah.
be able to unlearn if required.
Absolutely. So I think my takeaway is passion with a purpose.
Yes, passion with
Love
a purpose.
that. How did Tinker Lab come about, and how was the journey? I mean, were there any unexpected hurdles that you came across?
Tinker Lab again came about very, very organically. When I quit and I went to the US to study, I did not think that I'm going to come back and open a micro school,
Right.
that too in the early years.
Yeah.
There was no such intention. It was just at that moment very much about being able to be a good mother
Yeah.
for my children.
Yeah.
It was just focused on that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, because I was continuously learning,
Yeah.
I was just wondering how to make this information accessible to
Right.
parents and educators alike.
Yeah.
But while I was doing all of this thinking, the pandemic happened
Yeah.
and school shut down.
Yeah.
My children who were supposed to go to formal school that March or April
Yeah.
couldn't go,
Yeah.
and things went online.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really hit me as a
Yeah.
parent, because I'm like, well, I came studying all of this
Yeah.
thinking that early years is all about, connection and
Right.
all the socio-emotional learning that happens and
Yeah.
all of that. And here we are doing online
Yeah.
schooling. I mean, my whole, that is a separate
Right.
discussion on what online or
Absolutely.
screen time does for children that young, right?
Absolutely.
So I was like, no, this just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And fortunately for me, I had a space available in my condominium, which we converted into a micro school.
Okay.
And I reached out to my friend circle
Yeah.
to say, hey, I'm planning to
Yeah.
homeschool my children,
Yeah.
and would you like to also send your children?
Yeah.
I did not expect a yes, honestly,
Yeah.
but because they all knew me from my
Yeah.
corporate days,
Right.
and everyone, they don't know me
Yeah.
as an educator,
Yeah.
really.
Right.
And but everyone was so excited with the
Yeah.
thought. They were like, 3 hours, if you can keep our children
Yeah.
and teach them something, that
Yeah.
would be fantastic. So that's how Tinker Lab started in
Okay.
my house, where we
Yeah.
converted the house into a micro school of
Yeah.
sorts. It was a bio-learning bubble at that point in
Yeah.
time, for just restricted to those families,
Right.
because we couldn't get outsiders and
Yeah.
all of that. So we had very strict. And
Right.
fortunately for us, we didn't have to shut down Tinker
Yeah.
Lab, barring that 1 month during the
Yeah.
second wave, maybe.
Right.
So that's how Tinker Lab happened. And I kept thinking, after COVID, what?
yeah.
Whether Tinker Lab would still continue.
Yeah.
And that has been a revelation to me,
Yeah.
that when Tinker Lab went beyond my friend circle,
Yeah.
when it went to the larger community,
Right.
people loved it.
Yeah.
And that's how we moved it from our home to a proper center.
Pallavi, you mentioned that a lot of parents can now relate to the philosophy. So what is the philosophy at Tinker Lab?
The philosophy in a nutshell is about being with children. It's not about teaching children or thinking that they're empty vessels,
Yeah.
they're empty blackboards to fill and all of that, the sponge thing and everything that
Yeah.
we've always heard children are.
Right.
It's not that. It is to say, yes, you are little in size.
Yeah.
It is to say that, yes, your brain is still developing.
Yeah.
Having said that, you are still capable, because we now know, and there's so much evidence around it,
Yeah.
that even young infants are wired for learning. From
Yeah.
the moment we are born,
Yeah.
we are all wired for learning.
Yeah.
So does that mean that if I don't teach you, like the way you and I have
Yeah.
learned, nobody's going to figure out anything? No, that's
Hmm.
not possible.
Right.
Right? So how do you therefore be with children such that you are able to create an environment which is not just physically safe but
Yeah.
intellectually stimulating, and let them learn, let them kind of guide their own learning process. You as a facilitator
Yeah.
when do you step in, when do you keep quiet, when do you step in, how much do you step in, and things like that, which I call scaffolding. So again, that comes from being with children. If you're trained to observe and use that observation to know how to scaffold and be with children, that's what the Tinker Lab philosophy is all about.
Got it.
But yeah, what does that really translate into when it comes to actionable items or doable things in the classroom? A lot of things. And I think this is not it's not just a one-time thing, it's still evolving. I would always say it's a WIP, is that we are designed not to look like traditional classrooms, because children don't learn that way. When you put a table and a chair, that's a very outdated way of thinking that children learn like that, especially in the early years. They do not learn that way. So it's everything is at their level. Of course, the environment is very carefully curated as to what should be there depending on what the class is learning, and so everything is changed every now and then, but it's at their level, not designed like a traditional classroom. Second is we're a mixed age group classroom, again by design, because real life is a mixed age classroom, and there is so much learning that happens from the young learners as well as the older learners who learn how to be a mentor and be patient with younger children. So to give them that whole real life experience, that life is a mixed age classroom and this is how we live in it. Third is we're an inclusive environment. So not just on paper, but in real terms. We've always had neurodivergent learners at Tinker Lab. And it's fantastic because again, it's a simulation of real life, that the world comprises of all kinds of people. And just because someone learns differently, talks differently, or behaves differently than me, that doesn't make that person any lesser than me, right? And how do we learn to, just live together, not just because we have to, but with empathy and kindness, both ways. And figure out how to work with this person. That is also what we practice on a daily basis at Tinker Lab. The fourth would be a very high adult to child ratio, because for our educators to be able to observe children so closely and how they interact with resources, with each other, and to scaffold their learning, we do need quite a high adult to child ratio in environments like these. So this partnership with parents that we do is also the way we conduct our parent educator huddles. So like the PTMs that happen in schools, we call it the huddle, because we always tell the parents that no matter how many hours I spend with your child, at the end of the day, you must realize that you will always be the expert on your child. And therefore, it's not about me doing something over here. It's about how you and I can join hands for the benefit of the child and replicate this kind of an environment for the child, not just here at the center, but also at home, right? And like I said, when I came back with armed with all of that information, I realized, why is this not even accessible to parents? Because science helps us calm down, right? Science tells us, okay, this is where he is at. So is my expectation of him even right? So how can I kind of do this better? So we really work with parents with the way we conduct our quarterly meetings or the way we send out our reports to them, where we act as translators of the child's world of play for them to understand how learning, what this might look like play to you, how this learning looks across the domains of learning. So, and even when they come on the table, it's not a one-way communication that happens in a PTM. That you sit here for 10 minutes, I'm just going to go like that, your child this, your child did that, did not do this, so on and so forth. It's about to say, well, you tell me what are the things that you're seeing, and let me tell you what are the wonderful things that your child is already doing here.
Absolutely, because most of the schools are close to the idea of having a two-way communication with the parents. They just keep telling, but they don't really listen. So I think that is a very...
I always wanted to change that, because I just thought that was very disrespectful for the parents.
Absolutely.
So that's one. And we also conduct workshops for parents very regularly, where again the whole aim is that how can we possibly break down the science of the early years into consumable parts for a layman without getting very technical, but yet I'm able to give you out the essential information to say, hey, your child is 2 years old. This is what your child is going through developmentally. How do you think you're going to support this? Because if we don't know that, we're just doing what
Yeah.
we was done to us, right?
Yeah.
Parenting is all
Yeah.
about, it's a taught skill. The way we were parented
True.
is our knee-jerk reaction
Yeah.
to parenting.
Yeah.
So that's one. The other is also, again, like I said, supporting the teacher.
Yeah.
Who's really nurturing her?
Yeah.
Who's really holding the safe space for her
Yeah.
to say, well, I understand how
Right.
difficult your job is.
Yeah.
It is not easy to be
Yeah.
in a classroom of 18 months to even 4-year-old
Yeah.
children and be able to show up with
Yeah.
all your heart.
Right.
Like I always say that the classroom is nothing but the teacher's heart.
Yeah.
And it is that. Now,
Yeah.
who's really nursing her heart?
Yeah.
Right? Who's telling her that you're doing a fantastic
Yeah.
job and, maybe a little nudge here?
Yeah.
What about that?
Right.
Did you look what this child did?
Yeah.
So teacher, I don't like to call it teacher training. We always say empowering the teachers with the neuroscience, with the science of early years. When you give them the why
Yeah.
behind what you're doing,
Right.
it is so powerful.
Yeah.
It is transformative.
Yeah.
I have seen teachers
Yeah.
completely shift their lens
Yeah.
and look at children with a fresh pair of eyes
Yeah.
when we give this information to them
Right.
and we hold the space for them like
Yeah.
this.
If you had to rate the importance of early childhood learning in raising a successful adult, how would you rate it on a scale from 1 to 10?
10 on 10,
Yeah.
20 on 10. It's foundational.
Yeah.
How you are, or rather your early experiences of the first 6 years of your life
Yeah.
pretty much determine what kind of an adult you're going to be,
Yeah.
right? In terms, every relationship of yours in adult life is determined by your experiences of the early years.
Yeah.
So whether it's your relationship with your spouse, your relationship with your own children, your
Yeah.
relationship with the society at large,
Yeah.
your relationship with your employees, employer,
Yeah.
your domestic help, everyone is that everything comes from early childhood.
Right.
My teacher, my mentor used to always say that the seeds of democracy and world peace are not laid in middle school or
Yeah.
college. It's
Right.
laid in the early
In the
years.
early years.
So
Absolutely.
that's how important
Yeah,
it is.
because we give too much importance to the formal schools, but we don't realize the importance of these initial years.
Oh yes, I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Parents are like, play school ही तो है, 2 साल ही तो जाएंगे,
Yeah.
इसमें क्या इतना research
Yeah.
करना है? I mean, I get where they come from
Yeah.
because that's the kind of understanding that
Yeah.
we've been given.
Right.
But I think now there is so much evidence out there
Yeah.
that from 0 to 6,
Yeah.
what happens?
Yeah.
And of course, it's been misused.
Yeah.
Because of all of this evidence that 0 to 6 is so important,
Right.
95% of your brain is getting developed.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
therefore,
yeah.
oh my God, start showing flashcards from day
Yeah,
one
yeah,
and,
yeah.
I download this app and
Right.
that. No, that
Yeah.
they don't need any of that.
Yeah.
But having said that,
Yeah.
all of their experiences, the cumulative experiences of your early
Yeah.
years are extremely important
Yeah.
because not because our brain stops learning
Yeah.
later,
Yeah.
the brain continues to learn.
Yeah.
And that's the whole power of pivoting and unlearning and
Yeah.
relearning.
Yeah.
But the speed at which it happens
Yeah.
later in life
Yeah.
slows down. Because we all see life through the prism of our experiences,
Yeah.
right? So we come with our inbuilt biases
Yeah.
to situations and to say, okay, this is not for me, whatever. But
Yeah.
that is not there in early childhood.
Yeah.
The possibility of re-engineering, the possibility of a pivot
Yeah.
is much easier in
Yeah.
early childhood.
Yeah.
So all you need to do
Yeah.
is take care of the early years,
Yeah.
not by being a tiger mom and
Yeah.
like just scheduling their
Yeah.
day in a particular way,
Right.
but simply by bringing the connection.
Yeah.
If you have that really strong connection with
Yeah.
your child
Yeah.
at home, the teachers in school, society at large,
Yeah.
those early experiences is what is going to shape us as a society.
Yeah. Pallavi, you've already done so many things, from being a corporate woman to being an educator. What's in store for the future?
Lots of stuff. Like I said, when I gave up the corporate career, the burning question in my head was that, is this what I want to leave behind in the world as my 2 cents for the world, right? And so therefore, lots of stuff. We now comfortably know that there are parents who deeply understand or want to understand and do better and break generational cycles. So if there are parents and there are educators who don't come with that mindset that I have to teach and that every moment is a teaching moment, who are ready to unlearn and relearn with us.
Yeah.
So the next step, I think, logically for us is how do we make sure that we are able to nurture the parents, educators. I would actually just say a curious adult.
Yeah.
Any adult
Yeah.
who is mindful
Yeah.
in the core of his being,
Yeah.
in how he lives life,
Yeah.
but is curious to know
Yeah.
more about children,
Yeah.
being with children,
Yeah.
learning with children.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of adults that we really want to
Yeah.
work with,
Yeah.
right? And what kind of platform that would be, how that would come about is still evolving.
Yeah.
For us as a team.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure that that's the next step for us.
Yeah.
And we're actively working towards that, to building that kind of a platform.
Pallavi, this is my favorite part of the segment. I want you to bust myths around parenting. So you can
Okay.
tell us whether it's fact or fiction. And if you want to explain, that's
Interesting.
also
Yes.
cool. Yeah. You can be friends with your kids.
Not in the early years, so fiction.
Yeah. There is room for discipline and respectful parenting.
Oh, absolutely fact.
Children don't always listen to you, but they imitate you.
Fact.
You can still manage your parenting approach isn't aligned with your partner.
Fact.
How do you do that? Tell me. We also have a conflict in our parenting approach mostly.
Because I said, right, the parenting comes from how you were parented.
Yeah.
So when you don't judge the other person,
Yeah.
but are able to make that person see your point of view in a very respectful way, to say, I hear you, I see you,
Yeah.
but you know what about this?
Yeah.
What about you considering this?
Yeah.
You know, the gentle nudging for everyone, not just for children,
Yeah.
even for parents.
Yeah. There should be no gadgets strictly under the age of 5.
Under the age of 2, yes, completely fact.
Yeah.
No screens are required.
Yeah.
Under the age of 5, if you can keep your household that way, fantastic, kudos to you.
Yeah.
But if you must, because we all understand life happens, you may have an important call,
Yeah.
or you might just want to sit in silence for some time. Do allow, but monitor the content and monitor the time that they watch it for.
Yeah.
So it's
Don't
not
use
like
it as a babysitter.
no,
Like,
and definitely don't use it as distraction tactic to
Yeah.
feed them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's a complete no.
Yeah. And what is the right age to give a gadget?
Well, if you must, like I said,
Yeah.
as late as possible.
Yeah.
But monitor the content and monitor the time. You
Yeah.
cannot be watching it for hours.
Yeah. Yes days are okay.
Of course. Don't we have all that? And if we can have it, then why not for our children?
In this world of fast fashion, fast food, is fast parenting possible? Like quick fixes for parenting?
Fiction. And if you're buying into that, then you're just wasting your time and you'll be more frustrated.
I've always wanted to ask this to an educator. What is the best education board?
Oh, whatever works for your child. And that is a journey that you have to do with your child. To say that, okay, this is the kind of learner that my child is. So I will figure out, or he will figure out, he or she will
Yeah.
figure out, and I will make it happen.
Yeah, but sometimes we feel the children are too young to know. So
They
then
may be
what are
young
few
in the
things to look
initial
out?
years.
Yeah.
But what about later years?
Yeah.
By the time nowadays children are
Yeah.
smart enough, and by the time they're in class 4 or 5,
Yeah.
they're pretty sure.
Yeah.
And you can also see a path.
Yeah.
You can see what kind of learner they
Right.
are. Unless you're saying you're so clouded in your judgment that nahi, mera bachcha to IIT hi betega. Then, I mean,
Yeah. Right.
God save you, God save your child.
Yeah. What are the few tips that we should look out for when we are finding the right play school for our child?
Do your research. And don't just think that this is the closest to my house and therefore this is it.
Yeah.
Some of the key pointers when you do your research is to say what is the educational background of the teachers in the classroom, because a lot of places may sound great in terms of their philosophy and pedagogy, and that's because we don't understand so much of the pedagogy. We think it sounds very, very fancy.
Yeah.
We must understand someone's written it.
Yeah.
Right? And so there are so many Montessori schools, but are they really following Maria Montessori's vision?
Yeah.
No, they're not. We all know that it's a very abused term.
Yeah.
So the quality of the teachers will be the educational background that they come from, and also how much that school or that early learning center is investing in their teachers in terms of training them.
Yeah.
It's appalling, Prerna, that the lack of training in the early year educator community, especially in private institutions, is really scary.
Yeah.
And then you are sending your child there
Yeah.
with full faith and trust,
Yeah.
thinking that kuch acha hi sikh ke
Right.
aayega. But the fact that they
Yeah.
are not trained enough is scary.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure as parents how you are comfortable
Yeah.
sending them there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So do your research in terms of
Yeah.
what kind of teachers, the quality of the
Yeah.
teachers, the adult to child ratio. What
Yeah.
is that ratio?
Yeah.
Is my child just going to be handled by untrained staff,
Yeah.
or is something, is the
Yeah.
teacher ratio that high?
Yeah.
Of course, physical checks and all of
Yeah.
that happens, but I think this.
Yeah.
And how involved? Who are these people who are running these schools?
Yeah.
Are they educators themselves?
Right.
Or are they just, deep-pocketed individuals
Yeah.
who can, open a school?
Yeah.
Because unlike globally,
Yeah.
here, anyone can open a school.
Yeah. You want to share any incidents where there was a weird question that a parent asked you?
Yes,
Before they
lots of them. But I think the weirdest, but I think deeply, I would say sad.
Yeah.
A sad question
Yeah.
is a parent who had come to meet us and said, I heard that you are an inclusive school. So that means you might have children who are autistic and other neurodivergent learners in your classroom. What do you think? What kind of effect will it have on my child? Will my child learn? So I had to tell the parent that being autistic or being on the spectrum is not a contagious disease,
Yeah.
right? And what kind of effect will it have on your child? Your child will learn to be empathetic and kind
Exactly.
when she goes out into the real world.
Yeah.
That's the rub-off effect that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I don't think
Yeah.
parents really get it that simply,
Yeah.
because we all come
Yeah.
with our biases.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you share a funny interaction that you had with a parent at the time of admission?
I don't know if this qualifies as fun, but I was asked that because you're such believers and proponents of play and
Yeah.
child-led curriculum,
Right.
if you do all of this, do you think my child will be able to sit for the medical exam in the later years? Because they came from a family of doctors.
Okay.
And I was quite taken aback, and I was just like, you've already decided
Yeah.
that your child is going to sit. What if this child wants to be an artist?
Yeah.
And they just dismissed me outright. So
Yeah.
I mean, these kind of questions come.
I'm sure they didn't get admitted to your school.
Yes, we actually say no to a lot
Yeah.
of parents than we say yes to, because again, the kind of investment
Yeah.
that we do with parents,
Yeah.
right? The kind of hand holding that
Right.
we do. I'm talking to parents on a daily basis
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
what's happening at home,
Yeah.
what is the intervention required and things like that. So
Yeah.
with that kind of investment happening,
Yeah.
I need you to be totally 100% on board with me.
Right.
Then we can't be doing this if this and but that.
Absolutely. So this is an exciting segment. I've always wanted to ask my teachers this, but since I have you in house, I'm going to ask you, never have I ever, from a teacher's perspective, like when you were a student or you were a child, did you do these or not? And I
When
want
I was a
honest
student,
or a child,
Huh.
did you do these or not?
to the
So,
teacher.
in general,
Okay.
yeah. So
All right.
you'll see.
I was a very good child. let us say that,
Yeah, I have a fear is going to be that, but let's see. Hopefully I'll be able to touch upon one
Okay.
point where you were the best, and your children will be watching this. So give honest answers.
Yes, I will.
So have you ever bunked a class?
Oh, in college, yes, not in school.
Not in school. Failed a subject?
Yes, I'm a chartered accountant. Of course, I have failed subjects. So not in school and college, but
Yeah.
later.
Yeah. Have you forged your parents' signature?
Yes, but with their knowledge. My dad's signature.
Okay.
I'm very good at forgery.
Yeah, and you're a good student, I must say that you actually took their permission and did it.
Yeah, I told you I've been a good girl.
Been a teacher's pet?
Always,
course,
of
yeah.
course.
Made an excuse for not completing your homework?
I didn't have to make excuses. I always did. I'm a very diligent student, so
I was hoping for one story at least to come out of this.
I meet my teachers even today and they remember me. What can I say?
Yeah. Cheated on an exam?
Never.
Oh gosh.
I was so pathetic that I wouldn't even let other people cheat around me.
Sorry kids, I tried to get this out of your teacher, your parent, but it didn't happen.
I'm the kind of student who has gone home crying because
Yeah.
I didn't know one fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And therefore I will get 99 on 100.
Yeah.
So I've gone home crying. I'm that kind.
Okay. I failed. There are a few questions that I ask all my guests. What is your superpower?
My superpower is that I'm extremely resilient. I just don't give up.
Yeah.
So I may sit and sulk and cry
Yeah.
and go underground and disappear,
Yeah.
but I come back always.
Yeah.
So there is no ways I will not show up.
What is the biggest highlight of your journey?
It's made me realize who I am as a person, in both good ways and bad ways. Actually, it's brought my fears,
Yeah.
my darkness
Yeah.
to the forefront,
Yeah.
because it's all about survival. There is no rule book that you play by. You create your own to-dos.
Yeah.
You execute your own to-do.
Yeah.
So it's really taught me a lot about who I am.
Pallavi, what's the motto or the quote that you go by?
It's a short Sanskrit prayer that I say every
Okay.
morning when I light the lamp.
Yeah.
And I think my entire life and everything that we've spoken about revolves around that, which is Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya, right? So how do we move from darkness into light? How do we move from the false things that we constantly tell ourselves to accepting reality
Right.
about who we are and what makes us who we are? The ability to learn, unlearn, and pivot, like I said.
Yeah.
I think all of that, and then to say, okay, if this is my karma,
Yeah.
what is it that I really want to give back to the world, and what do I want the world to remember me for?
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
the nutshell of how I kind of live life.
Absolutely beautiful thought. Love it. If you were not doing this, what alternate profession would you be doing?
I would have just been a partner in a Big Four, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Gone back to your corporate.
Yeah, if not this. Actually, I don't know. I mean, like,
Yeah.
yeah. I've constantly dabbled at multiple things,
Yeah.
even while working.
Yeah.
So you never know. Maybe in the
Yeah.
creative field.
Yeah. I feel you would have been close to children somehow.
Yeah,
In
that's
some
what
way,
I
yeah.
think so. Yeah.
As the spotlight shifts from academics to life skills, how do you see it shaping the future of education?
I would really want the focus
Yeah.
to shift from academics to life skills.
Right.
I would really want that
Yeah.
to happen. And I think the new education policy, the way it's
Yeah.
talking about all of that, they are bringing the right perspective
Yeah.
finally.
Yeah.
So at least on paper,
Yeah.
in policy, we're saying all the right things.
Right.
But the truth is that our classrooms still largely remain the same, and it's nobody's fault really,
Yeah.
because the ones who are teaching have been taught in the same
Yeah.
way, and like I said, all of this is largely a taught skill, an acquired
Yeah.
skill, right? So we do still continue to do some of the things that the way we were
Right.
taught or we were raised.
Yeah.
So for that shift to happen, even if we have such a strong policy,
Yeah.
is going to take time.
Yeah.
In a country like ours,
Yeah.
it's not, I mean, with so many, with the population being this
Yeah.
high, it's going to take time. But
Yeah.
I do think that yes, in pockets,
Yeah.
the right things are being done, not just
Okay.
said, but
Got
being
it.
done,
Yeah.
right? And that is my hope,
Yeah.
that even though it takes decades,
Yeah.
even though it might take decades,
Yeah.
that change will come
Will
about.
Can you share a few transformational stories where Tinkerlab changed the life of a child or helped him develop?
There are countless such stories, but I think for me, my biggest marker, and that's been the biggest marker for me as a mother as well, is that every child who comes to Tinkerlab comes happily.
Yeah.
And that's something that consistently across our parent forum, we have heard that their children look forward, like it's unbelievable for them,
Yeah.
because they've always been told that, or rather they went to school
Yeah.
crying,
Right.
didn't want to go, whereas their children look forward to going
Yeah.
to school. They hate Saturdays and Sundays. I have had to get onto video calls with a lot of our
Yeah.
learners
Yeah.
to say, it's a holiday, school is closed today, we can't come to school,
Right.
because they are having a massive meltdown at home because they
Yeah.
want to go to school.
Yeah.
So I think that in itself says a lot,
Yeah.
that how the environment is
Yeah.
shaped.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, having an environment, access to an environment like this, which is for the children truly,
Yeah.
has a huge impact
Yeah.
on the way, on not just skill development.
Yeah.
It has a huge impact on giving them a framework for thinking for life.
Yeah.
Consistently, when we are in touch with our alumni
Yeah.
parents, we've been told that they still talk like the way you talk.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And they'd be like, some of the things that you've
Yeah.
told them, they still remember that. Like,
Right.
for example, there is this child who I used to always say that, who used to give up very easily.
Yeah.
And I used to be like, you don't know that yet,
Yeah.
but you will figure it out.
Yeah.
And apparently he still talks like that. He's in formal school now, and
Right.
and he always tells his parents that I haven't figured this out yet, but I will.
Yeah.
And I think that
Yeah.
is what you need, right?
Right.
Like what we were talking,
Yeah.
the ability to pivot, the
Yeah.
ability to unlearn and
Yeah.
relearn, and to say, I'm not going to give up.
Yeah.
I will figure this out.
Yeah.
That is beyond any academics, right?
Yeah.
Or the fact that our children have gone to formal schools, and in a class of 25 to 30 crying kids,
Yeah.
one child has been the one that how we speak to our
Yeah.
children to go about and say, it's all right,
Yeah.
Mama's going to be back soon.
Yeah.
We just have to play for some time,
Yeah.
and then she's going to be back, and
Yeah.
we are safe, and things like that. That's how we do the whole separation
Yeah.
handling over here,
Yeah.
and that's the language that they've learned. So to give children this emotional literacy,
Yeah.
to say when things don't go my way,
Yeah.
I'm not going to panic.
Yeah.
I am going to figure this out.
Yeah.
I think that's what's really
Yeah.
required, because the
Yeah.
ABCDs, the 1 to 3, the color recognition,
Yeah.
all of that will come.
Right.
Right? I mean, in which interview, Prerna,
Yeah.
have you been asked, when did you learn how to crawl?
Yeah.
When did you learn how to speak?
Exactly.
When did you learn how to read and write?
Yeah.
When?
Yeah.
How relevant is
Yeah.
that? Whereas if Prerna walks into office,
Yeah.
and when people are not looking at Prerna, and Prerna feels I'm feeling excluded,
Yeah.
how Prerna will figure that situation,
Yeah.
how she will go and make friends,
Yeah.
or decide for herself, this is not for me, I'll figure this out,
Right.
and not let her spirit die,
Yeah.
spirit break.
Yeah.
I think that's what's more
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that all comes only through connection, and not so
Yeah.
much by drilling down the worksheets and say
Yeah.
ABCD karna hai, 1 2 3 karna hai.
It has been 5 years of entrepreneurship. How has this journey transformed you, and how has Tinker Lab evolved over these years?
In ways that I don't think I can so simply explain, but of course, for me as a person, every day when I walk into the classroom and I work with children, it is a very therapeutic journey, I think, because parts of your own childhood come flashing back.
Right.
And that happens also to us as parents
Yeah.
when we deal with our own
Yeah.
children. How things from our childhood
Yeah.
just comes up, which is why parenting is such a difficult journey.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, the best part of my day is when I'm in the classroom, and that is the reason why I'm still in the classroom,
Yeah.
even though everyone wants me out of the classroom now to do other things
Yeah.
for the Nurture and Tinker Lab. But I still want to be
Yeah.
there, right? There is so much learning, because again, like the philosophy is also about how we impart this teaching.
Right.
If we don't teach, then how are we still giving them the kind of skills
Yeah.
or life skills, as I call it, because it's not just about school readiness,
Yeah.
it's about life readiness. How do you do that with children
Yeah.
then, so young?
Yeah.
It is how our curriculum is designed.
Yeah.
For example, it's a
Right.
very child-led, emergent curriculum.
Right.
Emerges from the child, the questions that the children bring into the classroom,
Yeah.
and that shapes our curriculum.
Yeah.
So we don't have a fixed curriculum
Yeah.
that, okay, this is what we're going to teach in
Yeah.
year 1 or year 2. Of
Right.
course, there is a pattern now
Yeah.
that we see in how children learn,
Yeah.
and but it largely comes from the classroom,
Yeah.
right? So that's one of the very important aspects of how Tinker Lab has grown,
Yeah.
how this curriculum mapping has come about.
Yeah.
The questions that children bring to the table, how do we document that? How do we research on that? How do we then kind of scaffold their learning?
Right.
The other part, I think the evolution, a part of that evolution has also been to realize that you cannot do, children by themselves are great.
Yeah.
There is no problem.
Right.
The problem lies in all of us.
Yeah.
So how do you really support and nurture the entire community
Yeah.
that this child is the center of?
Yeah.
The parent community, the extended family of this
Yeah.
child, the teacher community.
Yeah.
How do you scaffold and nurture
Yeah.
them as well,
Yeah.
so that they are able to shift their focus and say, oh yeah,
Yeah.
my child is definitely capable, right?
Right.
And I see it now.
Yeah.
Because a lot of Loris Malaguchi always said, children speak in 100 different languages, but we adults, we don't understand those 100
Yeah.
different languages of children.
Yeah.
So like the way we work with our parents,
Yeah.
we've really built a community of
Yeah.
parents who are champions for their children, not just their own children,
Yeah.
but generally for Tinkala.
Yeah. Pallavi, thank you so much for joining in. I think it was a very useful discussion for all young parents, very relevant, very insightful, and some of the tips I think I'm still learning from you. Having known you for so many years, being such good friends, but still there are things, nuggets of wisdom that you drop here and there, which I learned
That's
from.
so sweet of you to say. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
I now understand this space better from the educator's perspective too. I really enjoyed this conversation. Stay tuned for the next episode.